Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, April 29th, 5:42 a.m. Central Time as I speak here. July corn futures up 1.5 at 8.15. December corn is up a quarter cent at 7.52. July soybeans up 15.5 at $17 and a quarter. November beans up 13 and a quarter at 15.34 and a quarter. July Chicago wheat up 11 and a quarter at 10.97. July Kansas City wheat up 6 at 11.47 and a quarter. July spring wheat up 8 and a quarter at 11.99 and three quarters. If you guys are listening on the podcast, appreciate it very much. Leave me a rating or review if you have not already. I could use some more ratings and reviews on that Apple Podcast app in particular. If you're watching on YouTube, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are very, very, very close to my long-standing goal of 5,000 subscribers. I think we could probably do it in the next couple days. So hit that subscribe button, like these videos, leave me a comment. If you need some additional assistance from me, guys, go to my website. It is www.standardgrain.com. Check out my premium subscription service. My premium subscribers get a ton of information direct from me every single business day. This includes my morning emails, which go out before 6 a.m. Central every business day. All my grain marketing recommendations, weather info, maps, graphics. My daily subscriber-only videos are part of this package. I did a video yesterday regarding flash sales. I kind of explained the process. I explained the reporting process and how this all works. I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there in regard to flash sales and USDA's reporting system in particular. So if you guys are interested in this sort of content, give that premium deal a shot. It's $50 a month. You can cancel it at any time. No other fee, no other obligation. Nobody will try to sell you anything else, I promise. The White House has called on Congress to provide additional support for U.S. farmers. In a press release yesterday, the White House essentially asked Congress for an additional $33 billion in security, economic, and humanitarian aid for Ukraine. Of that money requested, $500 million would help to support the production of U.S. food crops that are experiencing a global shortage as a result of the war. They're going to do higher loan rates. Crop insurance incentives for U.S. farmers are being requested. Specifically, the plan proposes to significantly increase loan rates for 2 years, extend loan terms, and provide a $10 per acre incentive paid through crop insurance premiums for a soybean crop planted after winter wheat in 2023. So they're going to pay an extra to double crop next year, the way that it sounds. And this has to go through Congress, I believe. This is interesting. I'm not sure how much additional incentive this provides the farmers. I mean, we see the $10 an acre number. Is that ultimately approved? Does extending loan rates and that sort of thing, does it actually result in increased agricultural production? I'm not too sure, but certainly noteworthy and a story that we'll have to keep an eye on. We'll have to see if Congress is interested in this. But again, the government continues to just throw money at this Ukraine situation. Another $33 billion being requested, and of course a very small portion of that may be directed toward the U.S. farmer. A cargo of Ukrainian corn left a Romanian port yesterday. This was like essentially the first cargo of Ukrainian corn, I think, that's been loaded anywhere or shipped anywhere since the invasion. The vessel is carrying about 3 million bushels of corn, and this is corn that had been shipped via rail to Romania and that eventually made its way to ports. Ukraine's own ports, of course, remain shuttered as the invasion continues. Some Ukrainian grain is likely to continue to trickle out of Europe via rail, although that system is slow and largely inefficient. But this is, a sizable amount, I suppose. In additional Ukrainian grain news, Ukraine and Bulgaria have reached an agreement in regard to transporting grain via Bulgarian ports. While no specifics or timeline was provided here, this could allow for additional Ukrainian grain, corn, soybeans, whatever, to leave the country. Bulgaria's prime minister said this: Bulgaria will be more than happy to have Varna, which is one of their ports, as a logistics hub for grains and sunflowers and distribute all the grains you cannot through your ports. So Ukraine is working very hard to find alternative means to get corn, wheat out of the country, and succeeding to some extent, although this is going to be a tricky deal. It'd be much, much easier if they could use their own ports, of course. Export sales, kind of a mixed bag last week. Old crop corn and soybean sales were pretty close to the totals from the prior week. Wheat sales jumped back up after posting a marketing year low in the week prior. What's really notable to me is that accumulated sales of new crop corn and soybeans are record high seasonally. U.S. exporters have already sold 4.2 million metric tons of corn and 10.7 billion metric tons of soybeans for delivery during the 22-23 marketing year, which begins on September 1st. So these high prices are not scaring away global buyers. As a matter of fact, we have the best book of new crop sales for corn and soybeans on record essentially at this point. So strong demand continues despite high prices, which is very, very impressive. U.S. drought remains active. The government released weekly drought data yesterday. The U.S. plains and western corn belt remain the problem here. Certainly, it's pretty evident. There's a big dividing line here, essentially at like the Iowa-Missouri border, moving east to west. But in any case, USDA estimates that 23% of U.S. corn areas, 15% of U.S. soybean areas, and a whopping 69% of U.S. winter wheat areas are experiencing a drought. Spring wheat areas experiencing a drought about 35%. Rains are active across some portions of the country here this morning. You've got a system over Iowa into Missouri, and then another system over South Dakota into Nebraska, a little bit over southern Minnesota. So this is still not an ideal weather system or forecast the way that it looks. The next 7 days, that's the map on my screen here, is total expected precipitation over the next 7 days. It's wet for like the whole Corn Belt. I mean, basically everywhere is going to see an inch up to 2 inches of rain, maybe even more locally, everywhere from North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, down into the eastern parts of Kansas and Oklahoma, Iowa, southern Minnesota, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, up into Michigan, Ohio even. So this is still a less than ideal forecast. Now there's some corn planting happening, certainly, and it's continuing here, but this is a deal that's going to slow down a lot of that, and I would imagine that come Monday we're still way behind the average pace in regard to corn planting on a national basis. USDA reported a large flash sale of corn to China yesterday, just over 1 million metric tons, 44% for old crop, 56% for new crop. A sale along these lines had been rumored earlier in the week, so I don't think this was necessarily a surprise. So again, strong export demand continues despite very high prices. The U.S. economy shrank for the first time since 2020 in the first quarter of this year. GDP fell at an annualized rate of 1.4% in the first quarter. Traders had expected an improvement of about 1%. You had rising COVID infections in the first quarter. I think inflation is probably your biggest issue here in terms of a drag on the economy. Consumer spending actually held up fairly well. It rose 2.7%. There was an 8.5% pullback in defense spending. In regard to financial markets, this may have been the old buy the rumor, sell the fact situation. The S&P 500 closed with a gain of 2.5% yesterday, so actually a big rally in the stock market following this information. The cattle market was mixed in the live cattle and higher in feeder cattle yesterday, a little bit of a recovery. Cash trade's been light and kind of scattered this week. We'll see what develops here today to wrap up the week. The U.S. dollar index is lower this morning, but has been very, very strong. The S&P is down about 40 points ahead of the cash open. The Dow is down 175. Bonds are flat. Gold's up $25. Crude oil is up $1.15, 104.61 in the July WTI contract. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll talk to you on Monday.